As promised, here is the second stream for today. I was only going to do one, and then the thing got all overheated, and I said, all right, well, screw this one. I'll just resume with another. Um, as a result of an increased workload, I am not able to appear on camera because as I am speaking, I will simultaneously be doing something else. Um, this is how things have to be for the, I guess, present moment. Could be different tomorrow depending on how long the thing is. Let me say hello to Kylo or Kilo, whichever way you want me to pronounce it. You can you can leave the you go in a dictionary and it has the what do you call it, the little section where it'll be like the the syllables for a word. Let me say hello to Envoy. The difference is so huge. I'm sure it is. Uh, that's kind of the thing when you get somebody from a different culture, it's not the same as someone over here. Well, I'm not trying to discuss that at the moment. I just wanted to go into another segment of this. So, and then we have our residential. He's on his last leg user typing that goofy comment earlier. Now, and notice it's always the guy who'll say, like, my favorite comment from him, right, is when I did the stream with my friend, and he says, "What are you tearing up about again? Are you tearing up again?" This is his comment, which implies that he's seen me tear up before, and yet he's incentivized enough to come back to the supposed tearing up. That alone is strange. I don't know what other way to frame it. And a lot of people will say, "Oh, you're trying to give a slick this." I'm not. Just use your basic reasoning skills. What about a guy tearing up? Again, according to you, right? Um, would be appealing enough for you to go back to that person. No one sits there and says that's kind of strange. That's a little bizarre. I can see that Envoy went back to bed. He's or in his pumpkin edition clothing again. Envoy says it's not strange. People love to follow those they don't like or hate, or they think there's something wrong with that our society now. Yeah, that's why they make movies about. There's more movies about serial killers than there are senators or governors or pretty much any political figure that was not controversial. So I guess it all adds up when you say it that way. It's it's all coming together now. I'm just kind of surprised and this is what I'm talking about, Envoy. At the height of the explosion that was in October with all these people that were showing up, um, I mean, I really had thought for a brief moment that many of those people were going to stay. The way it works is you'll have momentary interest, and it'll just trickle down month after month until you are effectively rendered kind of being, pushed to the back burner. And what gets me is that a lot of people who will talk about, we mentioned this in the other stream, that will say someone is unattractive, they'll be the first ones to check that person's stuff out. No, but Envoy, like when I did the net neutrality stream, I had like 20 or 30 guys in there. I couldn't believe it. And these are people who literally, if you ask me to name who from that stream has shown up afterward, I can think of maybe like three people that were there. Everybody else just disappears. And what's scary about it is that a lot of times the people who are there, you never get the idea that they're not what's a good word for it, actively interested in this stuff, or at least they're not. This topic is not something that they wouldn't want to hear about. But when you watch their behavior when it comes to the people who are giving them this topic, they'll just stop showing up altogether, and it'll be like a row of them. Like you think it's like a cabal. Everybody just said, "Yeah, we're going to stop watching that person." And the scariest thing is it's not organized. They're all doing it, for their own particular reasons. But it gets really creepy when you sit there and you think to yourself, wait a second, they're going to give more time to someone who's, you know, shaking their behind the music video, and someone was telling them about any important geopolitical event that's going on right now because they don't think it affects them or it doesn't care. They can't get turned on by that. Yeah, who knows why they do that? I think it's a plethora of reasons, as I just mentioned a little bit earlier. But you get the point that you never can quite tell how people are going to act. Like just when it comes to online, not interactions, but the way we go on these pages and just decide to become involved with stuff. You never can quite comprehend. You can speculate. Like I had one guy who back during the October, which was the height of my popularity, saying, "Oh man, do not get attached to this. It'll trickle down." I agreed with that. And the saddest thing is that people will say someone again is negative for admitting in this era of social media how people have a difficult time paying attention to someone or something, but it was followed by that event happening that he predicted, and it was one that I said, that probably is the case because I've seen it happen with other people. I don't see myself like there's a policy called American exceptionalism, and what that is that people who live in the U.S., especially a lot of these politicians, will think it's so special that other countries actively conspire against it. Other countries are trying to do something to it, and it's so like the people who live here are scientists are so much smarter than all these other doctors and physicists around the world. And that was basically what is being presented. What I'm trying to not present rather with my own stuff. I'm trying to come off as not thinking I am exceptional. How dare you not follow this stuff? And that was something I understood a long time ago. In my basic dealings with just people in general. I mean, you've had guys who will say to you, I don't want to give you the time of day. If you sit here and text me 2 or 3 times a week or a day or a week or a week again, you get the idea with regularity. But I will chase after this person, obviously in the heterosexual man's case, a woman, who not only won't respond to my messages half the time, but in a lot of cases doesn't even know I exist. I go on her page, I'm checking her stuff. I'm not even really hearing what she has. I'm just looking in her eyes. And if she goes on there and says, I want financial backing to, give you more of what you like, which is basically just me sitting in front of a camera and talking about something that won't matter past next week, he'll crack out some pennies for that. And again, the title of the stream comes from that idea, this sudden selective payment thing going on. And Wicked Gesture is trying to have a dialogue about something else, so that's cute. That's very appealing. But yeah, I mentioned briefly in the other stream that people are, I think, all over the place when it comes to this stuff. That you see them so often trying to go out of their way to present this narrative of, oh, I am selective about how I want to spend my finances. So that's why when you go on here and you say, hey, can you spare me $3 a month for, I don't know, some kind of prize I'll give you if you do this thing or go on this portion of this website. They will, they won't do that and they won't buy it. And they have the right to not do that. But if they wanted to, go and get some gum that costs the same, they're going to use a lot less. Whereas with a video, you can watch that as many times as you want. Suddenly they're getting ready to prep themselves up for that. And so I always feel this deliverance whenever because I would love and certainly value those who would hypothetically be behind a Patreon or some other supporting type site. Problem is I can't count on the fact that's actually going to be that many people or anybody in some cases. And when you say something like that, people will tell you that you are, your attitude is what causes it. But look at the numbers. Like, sit down, stare at it and actively ask yourself, you have 4 people in the chat room right now. What are the chances that any of them are actually going to donate to an effort? No matter how cheap you make, you can make that 1 penny, and they still wouldn't bother. And I keep wanting to accept for myself the idea that, oh, it's their right to do that. You shouldn't be upset with it, and I'm not upset with it necessarily. It's just a thing I find quite fascinating because I've partaken in the same activities of just going, why do I need to pay this person for this? But I think that if you want to show support for what is being discussed and what is being talked about, you do that if you want to, again, as an option. And we obviously know that if people made the amount of views they want, they wouldn't even have to ask you for anything. They just would get it off of advertisements. There was a guy actually a couple of years back named Linkara who actually had a video where he sat down on this couch and he was like, I can't believe you guys are using ad block. Just go and don't watch the other. No, wait a second. Let me get this straight. You're getting paid by this company for your content. And you mean to tell me that you're not only going to get upset that they're not paying you enough from your stuff not getting as many hits as you would like, but you're also going to tell people to avoid their stuff while coming to see yours. It's both, Kylo. And when you have to juggle both, you have to cut your losses in certain areas. So, for example, again, as we speak, the reason I'm not on camera is because of the fact that I'm doing something else that is in line with those two things. And, I understand the lack of willingness for people to show up and actually look at, I explain, when they see that black screen, they don't have the same incentive to want to watch for whatever reason. But I can't be on screen at a time when there's loads of other things that are just popping up and becoming areas where I have to show attention to as well. So it really is a saddening thing because I do like to be on camera, check things out. You turn my head to look over there, just see what else is being written. But I do heavily favor the way things are usually are. It's just because of circumstances out of my control, I can't do all of these things at once. Yeah, well, again, the subscriber thing isn't the problem. And I do appreciate that that comment. The issue is the fact that the people who are subscribed do not actively check out the content, and this becomes a problem when we're talking about I guess doing something of your leisure and then having things go on in real life and being caught up with other obligations and just trying to juggle it. I know that people will say, "Oh, everyone does that," but it gets to a point where it's overriding. It's because you imagine, let's say you can't pay for some bill or whatever, and then you get disillusioned or you don't feel like doing a video. And look, people online should not have the responsibility of having to worry about that. I get it, but what I'm saying is that it seems as if you're in a no-win situation because you talk about, people will say get over it. If you don't talk about it, you just get quietly screwed. It's funny, all this stuff, it always feels like it connects, like no matter what the topic is, it always relates back to something else that has either been talked about extensively on here or mentioned in the past. That might not directly be about this topic, but still is kind of in that same area of, oh, if only enough people just pitched in, that kind of thing. Like when I was doing that primary election and my reaction to that, it's like, oh, if only enough people just went over and looked at the, what was being done there. It could have been so different. Yeah, it could have, but they didn't. You have to move on for some other way to make hits. again, lose-lose situation, because you will actively sit there and you will try to figure out what all can be done. The entire time you're doing that, you're not gaining any of this time back. Um, I mean, imagine getting up to like put some topic or idea together and then having to go and do something else after. It's just it's something that people have done before, and but for whatever reason, if you just kind of talk about how saddening it is to sit there and not be able to fully put effort into something you're committed to or serious about. Um, Again, deaf ears. You can't get the same outpouring of I understand you that I think a lot of times we see when we go and we watch these other channels that you know people a lot of times are watching because they're physically attracted to whoever the main person is, like as we've also seen in real life. So it is what it is. I guess everybody went to sleep. Everybody took a nap and went their merry way. Doing- And Kylo insists that he's listening, and then Wicked Gesture is kind of making this comment. What's being written here? I'm trying to figure out what happened to Envoy. He came back, and then I guess his ex-girlfriend, I mean his ex-wife, is engaging him in a custody battle or something. I don't know. That's his reason for disappearing. Dirk. I'm not. I don't think. I have no way of knowing. Again, like, that's the thing. Everybody doesn't show what they look like, so I just kind of don't really assume one way or the other. It's like, well, this person could be this, but they also could possibly not be that. You just get used to faceless descriptions. Welfare fraud. Yeah, look, hey, if everybody went to jail for doing that, we would have one of those prisons you wouldn't even be able to walk if you're guard or inmate. We do all kind of shady stuff all the time and get away with it. So there's a continuous pattern of behavior that a lot of us would condemn, just being allowed to transpire and exist and continue on as a direct result of a lack of intervention. Just anyone saying, "Hey, this is messed up." Yeah, I don't know what else to really do. What I thought was funny is that there was a time about maybe 2 or 3 years ago when I made maybe two or three, um, I think, videos about the, oh, I'm so sad, I'm so disillusioned, I can't get this amount of people follow me. And then what happened was that a guy actually responded back and he said, "You need this kind of setup, you need this kind of camera, you need this kind of light." And I said, "Wait a second, dude, you cannot possibly expect me to go and get all these things, especially on a limited budget, which a lot of us are engaged in. Um, and then suddenly, everything just magically switches up." Hey, man, when these people offer solutions, they're not. And I remember it'd be different if I went up and I said, "Kylo, tell me, what can I do? What can be fixed?" No, they're just showing up in the comments section. "You must do this, and things will morph around." Hey, man, come on. The bag of goods all over again. Wicked Gesture says rappers have actually been caught committing welfare fraud. I'm not. Again, none of this stuff is surprising. Like if people think when you get cash or you get famous, everything becomes great, and it's sometimes quite the opposite. I mean, there are a lot of celebrities who have mugshots that were taken after, or rather from crimes committed after they became famous or notable, and supposedly made a wealthy living. Just for other crap like battery and other offenses that don't have to do with their supposed main plight of not having expenses being covered. Like once they solve one thing, coincidentally they get something else. Uh, Carlos, I used to make a lot of money, spent it all, got lazy, and I'm mostly broke or at least low on. Okay, well, that's awful. Uh, the music fiend says, "What's the topic of this video?" Well, it's I don't want to say it's miscellaneous, but it's mostly about people and their thing where in real life they'll go and buy whatever at whatever kind of cost. And then when you try to ask them online, suddenly it's let's play nickel and dime and oh I don't see the value in doing it. So for example, Music Fiend, a couple of days ago I debated making a Patreon and I halted on doing that because I said there's no way I'm gonna be able to get more than maybe a person to go and become involved with this. And I was thinking of how I'd be called negative for having that view, but I've seen it happen on other people's pages where it seems like no matter what they put the cost is, just being on entryway. So if I said, hey, you can just pay $3 a month and you can get a video before other people do. They'll say, oh no, that's too much. That's insane. What's sacrilege? But they'll go to a hamburger shop every day for a week and spend $50 that week on burgers or more when they could get food cheaper. But again, it's designed to tell you that they're willing to pay additional costs for things, sometimes not even utilities, just cause in real life. But if when it's online, it's a nickel and dimes game, and let's crunch the numbers and let me pull out my calculator. So that's what the main discussion was, and I was trying to make the last stream just center around that. I got a little off topic, and it suddenly started kind of morphing into a discussion of just people in general and things I didn't approve of, and whatnot. So, so that makes any sense or adds up. Wicked Gesture says people just act so weird about money. Yeah, man, and what gets me is that you'll tell them I want this because of this purpose. Um, and for whatever reason, it becomes this game of show. I know a guy who spent I kid you not, uh, $400 on a gaming console, and so in applying to this school that's out of state, it's literally like 450, around the same price basically, and there was all this reluctance. Do I want to spend this on this school that still might not take me? I was like, wait a second, you're willing to spend it on this game, on this console, where again, not only do you have to buy the game, right, the console for that cost, then you have to buy each game for what, $60? Like, just sit there and think about that for a second. That 10 games is $600, and you go to their house, loads and loads of games. I've known people who've actually been homeless, and you ask them, what do you have to contribute to this place if we let you in? And you know what that was? Loads and loads of clothes. Just clothes, 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 clothes. And you'll be shocked because in one case I actually had my mouth almost dropped to the floor with this person. He actually had stuff that was so much they had to put it in the storage unit. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And this is somebody who I'm supposed to believe, oh, so underprivileged, and oh man, they oh, the world destroyed. No, they destroyed themselves. Because what did this person do when they didn't have to worry about rent? What did they do with the cash they were getting from their job? Does anybody know? Anybody want to guess? They spent it on more clothes. So I say that because I know there are people. We all know people like that. Maybe we're even people like that ourselves. And look, you can have hobbies, and you're entitled to spend it on whatever you want if you earned it. Problem with me is that I think when people don't objectively look at like if I make an appeal, someone will say, why are you doing this? Why should I spend $3 on this? And you'll know this person has spent that on things that did not last that long or were less significant. And so when I say that, I do it for the purpose of expressing to you the kind of underlying disillusion I have with even going forward with this idea. Girlfriend, I bought a Louis Vuitton bag for $500, tried to act like I was wasting $24 on an Xbox game. Yeah, spending hundreds of dollars in the bag, and then you spent tens of dollars. Oh my God, how could you? I think you should get rid of her. Well, Kylo, I'd like to support that notion, but I mean, based off the luck I've had, you might want to stick with that one because if you start thinking, I can do better and somebody will come around, I have news for you, man. It doesn't always work out that way. I know that like a veteran at this point. Not saying you couldn't. I'm just telling you that based off of what I've had happen to me and the other people, you get to a point where a lot of behaviors that you normally wouldn't tolerate, you let your significant other get away with. The Music Fiend says people don't know anything about money. That's possible. I don't dispute that. Let's see if I've fulfilled my interest here. But yeah, I really want everyone that's shown up here to understand my appreciation for them. And look, it's because I don't want to make this a headache for people who, uh, like this content that I deliberate so much on trying to inquire about, GoFundMe or any of these other websites because I understand that um, you wouldn't have to do this. And admittedly, there is a kind of sense of I don't want this to backfire. I don't want you to go and say, uh, screw you and your effort to get something out of me other than my viewership. That should be enough. Um, and so there's this kind of thing where damned if you do, damned if you don't. And I try to laugh it off because it really does disturb me how it feels like you just can't get people to properly. I'm not saying that everyone's going to agree with this, but it's like in getting it out, I feel in a really strange saying it, even like just something that I know is fact, which is that I could use all the help I could get. But even in admitting that, it still feels like I'm trying to weave you into this, please, 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 kind of thing or mentality. I don't want to do that. So it still could happen. I don't know. Let me read what Music Fiend is writing. When I did the research, it just had a different antenna with shorter range but stronger prophecy. Okay, friend who manages money convinced him to buy a PS Pro. Okay, that's the main head point. So he would have wasted $400 on something I already had. Messed him up because I actually live in a house, not an apartment, and my router is downstairs. Yeah, that guy was leading you in every direction. That was off or false. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing you didn't go along with them. It sure is a good thing that happened. Written here. Seems like that's about it. Right. Brothers downstairs. Oh, here we go again. Bots.